From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Thursday, August the 21st, 2025. The IDF yesterday gave a recap of its ground operations in Gaza since their renewal this past March, saying they have operational control of over 75% of Gaza, with some 2,000 terrorists, including senior Hamas commanders responsible for planning and executing attacks against Israel, eliminated. They said there have been airstrikes on approximately 10,000 terror targets from the air, land, and sea, neutralizing Hamas strongholds above and below ground. The IDF saying these achievements created the conditions for the IDF to intensify pressure on Hamas, strike its remaining capabilities, and lay the groundwork for the next stages of the operation. Those next stages include the IDF taking control of Gaza City. Yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said ahead of the approval of the plans for the operation in Gaza City, the Prime Minister has directed that the timetables for seizing control of the last terrorist strongholds and the defeat of Hamas be shortened, expressing his great appreciation for the reservist fighters who have been mobilized and their families and all IDF soldiers. The Prime Minister has shared the main principles for the conclusion of the war, starting with Hamas being disarmed and all hostages, the living and the deceased, to be returned. Reports, meanwhile, continue to circulate in the media that terror group Hamas agreed to a proposed ceasefire hostage deal and that Israel is reportedly reviewing it, though the details of the deal are unclear. The 50 hostages who remain held by terror group Hamas and other Palestinian terror groups in Gaza have now been captive for 685 days. The humanitarian aid airdrops continue today for Gaza civilians, with the IDF saying 155 humanitarian aid packages airdropped across the Gaza Strip by 7 countries: Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Germany, the Netherlands, France, Singapore, and Indonesia. The IDF said today that a terrorist fired at Israeli civilians near Adi Ad, an Israeli outpost in Samaria, the West Bank. The IDF said there was a physical altercation that followed, and an Israeli civilian was lightly injured and taken to the hospital. An investigation into the incident is underway, and IDF forces continue to search for the terrorist. Well, an Israeli civilian imprisoned in Lebanon for the last year is back in Israel. The Prime Minister's office said Salah Abu Hussein was returned to Israel this afternoon, pursuant to negotiations that were held in the past few months with the assistance of the Red Cross. Abu Hussein was handed over to coordinator for the hostages and the missing, Brigadier General in Reserve Gal Hirsch, by the Lebanese authorities at the Rosh Hanikra crossing in northern Israel. He will undergo medical examinations and be reunited with his family. Turning now to Washington, where bipartisan legislation was introduced yesterday to help track and combat anti-Semitism. Democratic Congressman Eugene Vindman and Republican Congressman Don Bacon spearheaded the Violent Anti-Semitism Threat Assessment Act. It would require the U.S. Department of Defense to issue a comprehensive report to Congress on the role of anti-Semitism in violent extremist movements in the United States. Bacon said the fight against anti-Semitism is not a Republican or a Democratic issue, but it's about being an American. He said the intersection of violent anti-Semitism and extremist movements presents a clear and present danger. Vindman said violent extremism thrives on dangerous conspiracy theories and anti-Semitic lies, and Congress needs clear, unflinching information about how this hatred is being weaponized so we can strengthen our response and keep our communities safe. CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, welcomed the introduction of the legislation, which he said will provide the facts needed to assess the dangers transnational violent extremists motivated by anti-Semitism pose to all Americans. giving us critical information to respond effectively. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Thursday, August the 21st at 7 o'clock. Robert Siegel hosts a panel discussion on universities and the federal government in regards to anti-Semitism. At 8, Tessa Veksler and Yadeger are on Being Jewish with Jonah Platt. At 9, Charles Jacobs is on L'chaim. At 10, David Harris speaks to Simon Deng on defending Israel. Then it's an encore of the news, and coming up next, a look at anti-Semitism in schools from the AJC Global Forum. And that's the JBS News Update for Thursday, August the 21st, 2025. I'm Teisha Bader. I am off tomorrow, but back with you with the news on Monday. Wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom. Am Yisrael Chai.